A month ago, everybody left the Cleveland Guardians for dead. Fast forward to today, we're complaining that a sweep of one of the best and most expensive teams in baseball didn't end in a no-hitter. That's a fun place to be.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
My, how the turntables. Welcome on into another episode of Locked On Guardians. Appreciate you being here with us. It's our favorite half hour of the day because for the next 30 minutes, we're covering your Cleveland Guardians from the majors to the minors, the draft, everything in between. And we do this every day, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We cover your team every day, your Cleveland Guardians every day. I'm Justin Lada. I have been co-hosting this podcast with my friend and co-host Jeff Ellis since 2022. And I've been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. That's 18 years. And I've been watching this team since I was born. None of those years, the 36 of them, have included a no-hitter. And that continues today, unfortunately.
You're at 36. I'm a 44. I was born months after the last one. Like I was born in July. You know, the last one was a few months before then. So I've never seen a no-hitter in my lifetime. I was explaining it to my daughter today. But for those who do not know me, before we get into that even more, I am Jeff Ellis of Locked On Guardians. Have been here since the inception of the Locked On Network when it comes to baseball. Before that, I was a longtime writer at Scout and 24/7, focused on prospects and the draft. I want to give a big shout out. And well, first, I want to thank each and every, well, I got all of it wrong today. I want to thank you for making today's episode your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. And I want to give a big shout out to all of our everydayers. I've been saying we're going to do it for a while. So here are the iTunes people who left reviews. A big shout out and thank you to Anthony Mock 41, M. Alexander 2723, Dave Yoder, and Cleveland Fan in Iowa. Thank you for your iTunes reviews.
Yes, we appreciate all of you, everydayers, the casuals, the reviewers, and everybody else. On today's show, we promised to wrap up the 2024 look back at the draft. We did the kind of the whole class yesterday, but we'll take a look at the additions today, and that includes a couple guys the Guardians have traded for since then. They really like that 2024 draft class, so we'll talk a little bit more why they did that in the third segment. We'll talk about the playoff odds. They continue to climb for the Guardians as other teams are hitting the skids a little bit, and the Guardians are hot at the right time. We, of course, have to start today's episode off, Jeff, with the no-hitter. Let's settle a couple things before we get into the game, okay? First, in the comments, I want to hear what everybody was doing, right, going into the ninth inning. I want to hear everybody's comments about how you were feeling and what you were doing, because it was a day game, so a lot of people were probably working, listening. I had my phone on. I was ready to record my live reaction if they got to 2 outs and Gavin was about to finish it off. The other debate I have is this. So my wife was at school. She was getting her classroom organized for the year ahead, and she had the game on earlier. She turned it off, and it was the 8th inning. It was the bottom of the 8th inning, and I texted her, and I said, hey, if you don't have the game on, you might want to turn it on. And she saw Francisco Lindor make the first out of the 9th inning, and then Juan Soto ruined it. And she said it's my fault. Is it my fault that I texted her to turn it on?
Yes,
and
100%.
Yes,
it is. Yeah.
It's really my fault. Okay.
Yes, it's all your fault.
Yes.
We've
fine.
established
all right,
this.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Gavin Williams. You got to 120-something pitches for no reason, except for one text message that I ruined the whole thing. But no, that was a lot of fun. God, I mean, he had 25 pitches in the second inning. Going into the third inning, Gavin Williams had more balls than strikes. He walks Brandon Nimmo, and then after that, he retired the next 15 in a row at one point. Like, I don't know where that came from, but my goodness, Gavin Williams just turned it on after the second inning, and I can't believe he got to the 9th inning with a chance to put that away.
Yeah, I was trying to explain it all to my daughter as it's happening. She's 7, and just be like, this hasn't happened in my lifetime. She's like, so it's a chance to see history? I'm like, yeah, it's a chance to see history. And, I did message my father as well, just be like, hey, you should turn this on. I mean,
so it's your fault too. It's your fault too.
No, because I've never jinxed. I haven't jinxed this year as much as you have. So you've definitely been the one who's had more of the jinx.
I did text you and I said Jose Ramirez has had a terrible series. because he hadn't had a hit. And then as soon
Literally
as Jeff got that text, he got
literally
a
a hit.
So
Yeah, literally
I
that
have
popped on my
way more
screen.
power than I should.
Yes.
I have way more power than I should.
But, you know,
Apparently.
my daughter is up and down about baseball. It's not one of her interests. She's a soccer player and an ice skater and things like that. But occasionally she likes to pop in here and there and check things out. But it was interesting to her because it is a chance for history, something that doesn't get seen often, especially not for this team, the longest one with a no-hit drought. So it was fun. But I think to me, the even better part is in the past, we've seen Gavin Williams struggle. And then that's just his day. Once he starts struggling, you're not going to get anything good out of him. Today, the first 2 innings were not great. And he bounced back strong. They're fine.
The second inning was horrendous, and I was very worried at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 43 pitches through the first 2 innings. Like, that's not what you're expecting, for the rest of the game after that. But, I mean, this puts him now in my little, players of the game system. He's up to 11. That makes him, the most for any starter this year. Tanner had a big lead on him, but Tanner hasn't got a player of the game in about a month and a half. Whereas Gavin has really hit his stride, and you're seeing him deal. And for a guy who had a year to forget a year ago, this is really big for him. And it's been great for the team. I mean, he is right now their number one starter this year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has become their ace over the course of this season. And this was another ace-like performance for a guy who his last 3 to 4 starts have been spectacular.
Yeah, post All-Star break in 4 starts, Gavin Williams, 28 strikeouts, 9 walks, 27 and 2/3 innings pitched. His whip is below 1 in the second half. And of course, August, he's made 2 starts, and they've both been fantastic. Walks are still a bit of an issue there. As we saw, he ended up walking 4 in this one, 3 of them to Brandon Nimmo, which, I guess credit to Brandon Nimmo because he had a terrible series outside of the walks, but he couldn't catch up to any fastballs. But Gavin's fastball was incredibly special in this one. I mean, that was, we've talked a lot this season about where he's been trying to go and where he's coming from. And remember, we've talked about how like his fastball metrics, he just never seemed to measure up. Like, it's a great fastball. And it just, I don't know, I have to look at the numbers a little bit deeper, but it feels like the fastball has started to gain a lot of momentum results-wise. Like, that was a pitch for him early in the year. It was getting crushed. And we're like, well, what the heck? He throws hard. He gets a lot of induced vertical break. Why is it getting crushed? And now it feels like guys are having a hard time handling the fastball. Like, I'm not sure where that came from. It still has a negative run value for the year. But I can't find a way to split the run value by month on Baseball Savant, but it feels like the fastball's trending in a pretty good direction for him in terms of results.
Yeah, I mean, everything's turning that way for results with him. That's the nice thing. It's like, he is really, everything's clicking. These last few starts, he hasn't had a bad one in a very long time. And
here's a good one for you, Jeff.
Okay.
Because we haven't really talked about this on the show much. We've been texting about it. Like Tanner Bybee has introduced a sinker this year, and it was supposed to be kind of a game changer for him, and it hasn't gone all that well.
I think it's set him back.
I don't know if
it's not been a good pitch for him this year.
I don't know how comparable Tanner and Gavin's sinkers are, but the Guardians and Tanner definitely should make some notes about why is Gavin Williams' sinker working for him this year? Because Gavin's sinker this year, the expected stats are fantastic. 243 expected batting average, 331 expected slug, and all the actual results are even lower than that. So they might want to check in to see, okay, why is Gavin Williams' sinker so effective? And why is Tanner's getting crushed? Maybe that can help them solve some answers there.
Well, I think one of the
turn this into
I think one of the big things there, though, honestly, is sinkers are tricky pitches. We've seen a lot of guys over the years have inconsistency with sinker performance, even year to year. I think it's just a really hard pitch to command effectively and to use effectively. Cleveland had a few years there where they went all in. I'm trying to remember the guy from the Cardinals they got who was an effective sinker baller who they even tried to make work. It was like a starter who was good for Cardinals for 1 year, and Cleveland went out. They had a period where
Anthony Reyes, who became a firefighter.
Yeah.
There's a throwback for you.
Yes. But they've tried before with the sinker, and it's a hard pitch to command effectively. I think that's part of the problem there. But we don't want to take anything away because in the end, Gavin Williams commanded everything today.
Yeah. After that second inning, get to the 9th inning was just absolutely incredible for him to have a chance to finish that off. All right. We'll wrap up more about the almost no-hitter, the sweep of the Mets, the Guardians playoff odds rising, and we'll get into the rest of the 2024 draft class on the rest of this episode of Locked On Guardians. Lots to come.
But first, you love it when a sponsor returns, and we've got that today. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. It's a perfect time to lock in your season-long, more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks in. Whether you got your eye on a big-name quarterback or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. For those who are not familiar with the service, it is, as we like to say, as easy or more or less. They'll give you a stat category, and you can pick often for a game, for a season, however you're going to bet. But you lock it in, and you just say more or less. And sometimes they even give you some freebies where they will put up that category and say it is like 1 point. Will LeBron score more than 1 point in this game? So you got to keep your eyes open. It's just that simple, more or less, across simple, easy to know stat categories. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game.
Thanks for being here with us on today's Locked On Guardians. Make sure you're automatically downloading on all of your audio platforms. That helps us out a ton, and make sure you get every episode into your feed so you never miss one. If you hit the bell on YouTube, you can make sure that you'll get all the episodes sent to you and a notification, as well as post-game reactions like the Gavin Williams almost no-hitter, breaking news like when CJ Kayfus was called up, and the MLB Squad Show, which is coming your way on Friday this week. So stick around for all that. I think I'll be on that. So a lot of fun with that this coming week. For Gavin Williams, again, to get to that 9th inning, we should probably talk about this too, because I know you wanted to bring it up. They really pushed him limits-wise to the max. And I'll say, we were texting back and forth about this. I was not to throw you under the bus here, but I was not as worried about it because, I know there's some issues with it historically, but you have a chance at history. They have an off day on Thursday. His velocity wasn't down. They have an off day on Monday. So really, they could push Gavin Williams back a couple of days if they really, really wanted to. I have no problem with them pushing him where they did to see if he could have a chance to do it. Like, I know some people would have said, we'll take him out for the home run. And maybe you could have done that, sure. After the Brandon Nimmo walk, it was pretty obvious, like, this has to be over. Although he did get Pete Alonso out after the Nimmo walk. So, and honestly, it was close enough to say, like, the Nimmo walk could have been the end of the game. Like, it was he could have had
it. It was in the zone. By metrics, it was in the zone. But to go back to the original point, for anyone thinking that I was saying he should be pulled, I was like, no, you send him out there, but I thought they should have had someone warming. And the minute someone gets on base, you pull him, just because his highest is a 109. He was over 120, and he's a guy who has had a history of health issues. A year ago was a lot of time injured, and those guys who have big jumps and pitches thrown often then do deal with fatigue. They deal with arm burnout, and they sometimes have bigger issues. So it is a gamble. So I just thought there should have been someone up, and once the home run was hit, once the first hit was out there, you pull them. That's where I was. That was my view on it. That you don't wait. You at least have someone up. Because then he goes and throws 5 more pitches that are kind of worthless to Nimmo, or more than that, actually.
That last pitch was a borderline strike, though.
And you would think he would get that call because the way the game has gone. But at the same time, it was in the zone. It was a strike. Like, Savant had it touching the top of the zone, in the zone. So it's like, we can complain all we want, but it's still
the umpires had the Mets plus 1.5, so he had to get that run back. I was hoping to get that run back.
But either way, it's like you send him out 100%. I'm not saying that, but my situation, because I don't want people coming, because the way you set it up, people are going to come at me and like, you're thinking he should be pulled. No,
that's why I'm not trying to throw you under the bus.
No, yeah. But it was never that, like, send him out, let him try to get the no hitter, try to get history. Yeah. But I just would have had someone up so you can go to someone a bit quicker in that situation. That is all. But yeah, it was, and that's the other thing too. It's like, honestly, at that point in the game, it's a 4-1 game. Guy's thrown his heart out. He's had a big time game. Big, by the way, shout out to Mets fans for giving him a standing ovation. Yeah. That was a really classy move by Mets fans.
How about that?
When I lived in New York, I rooted for the Mets, not the Yankees, in terms of, like, not that I could ever root for the Yankees. I rooted for the Guardians first and foremost, but I adopted the Mets as a National League team. Now I adopted the Brewers, having moved here. But always was a cool fan base. Always was a good fan base. Had nothing but positive experiences. Shout out to my buddy Nick Fraley, if he's watching, who's a big Mets fan, who I would go to games with when I was out there. But that was very classy, but you'd think he'd get the strike there. I mean, he's throwing a game like that. He should get the borderline strike.
Enough.
As
I
much
know,
as I'm like,
normally-
it's in the zone,
Yeah.
and like I can't complain that much, but it's like there's that bit of like after that game, he doesn't get a borderline strike. Don't you like? I mean, the umpires, it always feels like they want to leave early anyways. So, but yeah, it was a great performance. I got to say, just real quickly in here, I got to throw out first multi-hit game for Kayfus. Andy had some great defensive plays.
When Kayfus made that play in right field, I got to tell you, there was 2 plays in this game that I mean, the first one happened in the first inning where that line drive hit off off Gavin's glove, and he recovered a throw out, which by the way was a great play. But of course, at that part of the game, you're not really thinking about it because it's so early. But when CJ Kayfus made that play in right field, I was like, great play for Kayfus for a guy who's not a outfielder by trade. And I was like, every no-hitter needs one of those plays, maybe 2. And I'm like, that almost convinced me it was going to happen because I was like, that's the play that you would need to now. If Angel Martinez robs that home run, which I know some people are saying, he almost had it. That ball was out of range.
He needed a ladder.
Nobody was catching that ball. He gave it a good effort, let's be honest. But yeah, props to CJ Kayfus for that catch. Because again, not an outfield by trade. That's a very tense moment. You're trying not to be the guy who blows the no-hitter. And that could have gone he could have, maybe it would have been an easy play for someone who plays right field on a more regular basis, but that's a good play by Kayfus. Also want to point out too, Gavin Williams had a lot left in the tank. He was emptying it at the end. That home run, that pitch to Soto was 97. His final pitch of the game was almost 96. Like he didn't have a lot of strenuous innings after that second inning. That second inning was rough, but after that, he pretty much was overpowering the Mets the rest of the game to the point where he didn't have any stressful innings. So even though the pitch count was up there, it's important to note too, he wasn't pitching under a lot of stress after that second inning. So
anything over 120 is risky though. Like,
it's a lot. No, it's a lot.
That's
but he retired. He retired the last 15, I think, or 15 or 16 in a row. It was pretty darn close.
It was
also
I think it was 16. I think it got to.
We were talking about the second inning too. Gavin Williams, Austin Hedges. Because catchers matter so much when you get this close to no hitters. Catchers matter so much. Austin Hedges said to him after the second inning that he didn't like Gavin Williams' body language because, again, he came into the third inning with more balls than strikes. And Austin Hedges said, I don't want to see that body language again. Gavin Williams said that after the game.
Yeah.
And boom, that fixed him. Like after that inning, Hedgie was the whisperer there, and that seemed to work for him. And I love also that Gavin said he didn't know there was a no-hitter till the 7th inning, and that he really didn't even know the game plan. They really didn't even talk. Like he didn't have any conversation with Hedges really between innings. It was just kind of let's go out there and just keep playing pitch and catch. That's the way to go. Like that's the way to keep the pressure off.
Yeah, 100%. No, it was really interesting. The app I listened to that as well. It's the value of Hedgie as much as people accuse us of only living and dying by the numbers. It's like he is a guy who does so much more than the numbers. And then I just got to mention very briefly in this series as well. Gabby Arias and the return of him, the home run in game 1, he tied the game yesterday and had the triple today to give him the 4th run. He's maybe not having
that ball.
Yeah, too. It's we'll see if he can stay hot. He has definitely been an up and down guy, but it was a nice 3 games for Gabby as well. But the star of this one is Williams. Like there's we want to point out the other guys, and it was a multi-home run game. We didn't even talk about Martinez or Fry. But
2 big home runs, which by the way, off David Peterson, who was having a great year.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk more about the sweep. We haven't really got a chance to talk about the sweep in general. We will, and we still want to talk about the 2024 draft class, at least the small additions, which won't be a lot, but we'll talk about a couple of guys too. I got one more piece too here. This is not comparable at all to what Gavin Williams did, but I just know the pressure that mounts late in the game. I once threw a 299 in bowling, and everybody, that last frame, there was not a soul in the 10 lanes around me bowling. They were all watching me, and I hadn't thought about it at any point until then. I just kept bowling, and then the 10th frame came wrong, and I was like, oh, because nobody around me wanted to bowl while I was bowling, and that was a very lonely feeling, I can tell you that. So it makes sense that Hedgie and Gavin Williams were not talking between innings as things got heated there in terms of potential history. So again, my feet is nowhere near Gavin Williams, but I can tell you if I was feeling that way, I'm curious to see how he was feeling on the bench too. All right, we'll talk more about the sweep. We'll talk about the Guardians' playoff odds. They're rising, and the rest of the 2024 draft class the Guardians have went on and added, all coming up in a jam-packed edition of Locked On Guardians. You could have been one of those people that went to the game last minute if you lived in New York, because a lot of people like to do that. You want to play a little bit of hooky if you're in New York and watch some game. You almost saw some history, and the Mets fans appreciated that. And when it is game day, sometimes you do realize you want to be in the stands, whether it's good weather, you want a day off work. That is where Game Time comes in for you. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets out the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can do a lot of fun things like buy that food item at the ballpark you've been wanting to try. Now, there's some, even at Progressive Field, that I haven't had a chance to try yet. Or invite more friends. The games are always more fun with more friends. Game Time makes that all possible for you. And, of course, they do have the zone deals that helps you find the absolute best seats in a section. I used them for that game. I didn't bring friends, but I went to a game solo after the All-Star break. I saw the Athletics and Guardians. I used Game Time because I was able to find a last-minute ticket for a really good price and a really good section. I saw what my seat looked like, and it found me the best deal I could get for one seat, which is actually pretty hard, by the way, to buy one seat. But this at Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account and redeem our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute prices, lowest prices guaranteed. Guardians and Mets just finished off a great series. Yeah, the Mets. I know the Guardians have caught the Mets maybe at a bad time. Jeff,
they're a streaky team.
That.
Very
streaky.
They
are a streaky team. And we did have one
year.
Mets fan in our comments said we weren't stunned. We knew this team has not been playing well, so that might be true. But the Guardians have been playing really well. I mean, they are 59 and 55. When they were at the 10-game losing streak, they were 40 and 48. That was literally a month ago when we were recording this, right? They had a 5.6% chance to make the playoffs. Fast forward a month later, they're 59 and 55. They have a 24% chance to make the playoffs. In a month, they almost jumped 20% in playoff odds. They have shaved off, 10 games from the Tigers, who are struggling. The Yankees are struggling. The Rangers are playing good baseball, but they have shaved off a lot there. They're coming back strong. And again, for what this team has gone through, it's pretty impressive. And I don't care what time you're catching the Mets at. This is still a very expensive, good team. You face David Peterson. You face those big bullpen additions they had at the deadline. You faced Juan Soto, who did get you out of the no-hitter. Pete Alonso crushed you on night one. This is still a really good lineup. David Peterson's having an underrated year. This was a fantastic series. Like, sweeping the series was a good litmus test, I think, even if the Mets are hitting a rough patch.
Yeah, it's a really good team, bottom line. Like, they're a team that's expected to make the playoffs. They're a team that has spent as much as anyone. And I have to laugh because, of course, after the 10-game losing streak, all the haters came out. Like, all we saw in the comments is, I told you this was a 500 team. I told you this was, like, the worst team in baseball. And, our whole thing.
Oh, my God. The Rockies
it's the same. Well, no, because remember, but that was the whole thing. It's like they're hitting worse. They're playing worse than the Rockies this month. And that's the whole thing in the month of June. It's like they were worse than the Rockies. And everyone, but it's like baseball is a long season. There's a lot of ups and downs. The one thing we try to do is stay pretty even on this show. And people wanted this team to fail for a myriad of reasons. Let's be very honest. Even their fans wanted them to fail, either being upset that they traded away, more players in the offseason, because people get upset by that they want, familiar faces, being upset that they didn't spend after what happened last year, or just being in general, the toxic relationship between parts of the fan base and, ownership for basically the entire run of it here. So there's a lot of people who were very happy when they were struggling. And now those same people have disappeared because it's, or they've gone back to just enjoying baseball. I hope that's the case. I would rather that those people do get some joy in life than just stay miserable all the time. Hopefully that this turnaround has been fun for them, just like last year was a fun season. And what's really nice right now is, they've overcome and they never give up. Like, this whole, things have gone sideways, go back to like when Cade Smith blew that first save opportunity. They still tried to come back that game, put some hits together in the ninth. When they lost to the Twins, they scored 2 runs in the ninth, right? Like, it has been a scrappy team. And it's a team that's had to overcome, they're arguably their second best player being suspended, overcome one of their biggest offseason additions being suspended, the two prospects they were most counting on this year getting hurt. There's been a lot of things that this team has had to overcome and fight through. And now they are the team. They are, was it 100th of a percentage point above Texas? So they're actually the first team out of the playoffs right now. They're a game and a half out at this point. And they picked up, what did we say, 9.5 on Detroit, right? In a month. And one of the things we talked about on the show is you look at Team BABIP. Their Team BABIP on the season is still the worst in baseball. But in the month of, during this hot stretch, hey, they've moved closer to average. Like, that's the thing where Detroit, who at the start of the year was riding some of the highest ones, have also moved closer to average. So you're seeing some of that normalization occur. And, I'm not saying this offense is ever going to be top 10 or top 15 this year in baseball, but it can move out of the bottom 5 with which when you combine with what the starter and pitching is doing, is phenomenal, because the gap between how terrible the starting pitching was last year and how good it's been of late is huge. Like, I think that's one of those things we forget, is just how bad the starting pitching was a year ago versus what has turned into a really solid to good rotation in just 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin Williams has stepped up big. I mean, we expected the preseason breakout for him, and it didn't happen in April. But really, if you take out the numbers since April, he's been fantastic. And as the season's gone along, Gavin Williams has gotten better. And Slade Ciccone has been a revelation, and not even a guy you expected to be in the rotation. Because, by the way, Ben Lively, who is Mr. Reliable, the king of options, has been gone since May. So there's that. Yeah. You've missed Ortiz, so Cantillo's had to step in.
I mean, Allen surprised both you and I. Like, you and I probably still undervalue Allen because of what he's done in the past, and he's been really good.
Yeah, he's really been good. There was a good comment the other day. I think it was Dave Wendell. Something about maybe he was called up before he was ready, and he's had some more time to have to progress and learn some things and maybe develop a little more at the major league level. Yeah,
from every day to day.
That's a good comment too. I think the same thing applies to Gavin and Tanner, truthfully, because they were all called up before they were truly ready.
Yeah.
It was just not a necessity where they were at that time. And maybe they've had to take their lumps, all of them, at different points. Right now, Tanner's kind of taken some lumps. Allen's gone through his. Gavin, we know, has gone through his. Both Allen and Gavin have come through on the other side, so I have no doubt Tanner will. Slade Ciccone will do it at some time too. He did a little bit last year, but yeah, he's coming through just fine. And the rotations really come together. Like you said, the BABIP has come up to a more average point in the second half. They have this team, by the way, has the as a top 10 offense since the All-Star break. They've played 19 games. They have a 112 WRC plus. They're top 10 in runs scored at 6th. So this offense has started to kind of trend upwards towards the norm. The BABIP's 303 in the second half, which is more average. And by the way, the Tigers' BABIP has sank to 295, where it was well over 300 in the first half. So they are coming back to earth themselves as well. So, yeah, the odds continue to climb for the Guardians. They have made up a lot of ground. As I said before, you talk about the relationship between the ownership and the fans, all that kind of stuff. I think, at least for us, we've done this. Not everybody has to feel the same way we do, but I think you do a good job or try to do a good job of okay, can we separate our feelings about the front office and ownership versus what's on the field? And if you just take into account what's on the field and what they're doing, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty fun to invest in, I think, in terms of not necessarily money, but emotion, just your time, because the guys on the field, they're just there to play. They don't have any control over the other stuff outside of their own play. And what they're doing is pretty impressive, I would say, given what's happened and what did or didn't happen with prospects and money. So if you can separate those things and you really just enjoy baseball, I think there's an enjoyable thing going on here if you can just separate kind of the other pieces from it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know, we talked about Sully's index, right? The great thing about being a Cleveland Guardians fan, there are things that are not as great, is this team has been competitive 9 of the last 10 years. Honestly, I mean, they're always in it, and that's something to enjoy.
It is. Real quickly, we'll just touch on a couple of guys. So obviously, we know the Guardians acquired Cal Steven for Shane Bieber. We talked at length about him. I'll be excited to see his first start with Akron sometime this month. Josh Hartle, who the Guardians got in the Andre Jimenez, Spencer Horowitz, Toronto-Pittsburgh swap, having a fantastic year. His last 4 starts, he has not allowed an earned run. Thanks to Jeff for pointing that out to me. 17 strikeouts, 7 walks, 21 innings pitched in the last 4 starts. The Guardians wanted to draft him out of college. I think we talked about he was sniped in front of them. Yeah, one spot ahead of them. The Pirates took him. There was some hype about him being the first college pitcher off the board in 2024, which we know obviously didn't make sense. I think he was drafted exactly where he deserved to be drafted. We're not talking about a top of the rotation guy. We're talking about a guy who I think can be a 5-starter. And maybe the value is that he can move pretty quickly. I think the Guardians really need to challenge him at Double-A sometime this year, so you can kind of get him moving because he is a college starter.
I would argue that that's not where he should have gone, because we've seen a lot of guys like Jordan Wicks and a lot of back end arms go in the first round. Like, that is actually a really common round to see them in. And when he was the
first college starter, though,
when he was the first college starter, he was listed at like 16th on their board, which is mid first round to late. Like, they just didn't believe in Burns. You know, that's the thing at that point in time. So like he tinkered with his stuff. He tried to find a strikeout pitch, maybe get more strikeouts, things like that. It didn't work for him. Had a bad year. Pittsburgh jumped, and then Cleveland got him to their advantage. But I mean, we see guys like him. He should have gone high. If he had a normal junior year, he's going in the first round.
Yeah. And then Nick Mitchell, he was off to a decent start at Lynchburg. Obviously, had the hamstring injury in spring training. He was okay at Lynchburg. He came up to replace a couple guys who've been promoted. He's doing okay. Nothing special. He really looks like a fifth outfielder at best. He's actually kind of struggling right now at Lake County, but just kind of a guy who just kind of seems like a fifth outfielder at this point. He's only 21, so we'll see what happens, but not as high on him as we are Cal Steven and Josh Hartle, who, joined this 2024 draft class for the Guardians now. So they'll have to be factored into all of that when all is said and done.
I'll throw one quick thing out on Mitchell, because I was higher on him than you. He's been a slow starter throughout his career. He had some bounce around, some points like that. It has not been great in high A, but there are reasons to still keep your eye on him, see if he is a guy who follows his traditional trajectory of maybe taking a little bit longer to cook.
Yeah, and having a delayed start to the season is very hard for anybody. Yeah. You always feel like you're playing catch up. So this could be unfortunately a lost year for him. So yeah, I would like to check back in next year with Nick Mitchell and see if things have gotten off to a better start for him. All right, on tomorrow's show, it's a mailbag show. The Guardians are off. We are not, which means we're looking for mailbag questions from you to answer on tomorrow's show. So stick around for that tomorrow. All of your questions answered on Locked On Guardians.
Thank you for joining us, and go Guardians go.